the act of performing is like this thing I need to do. I live for it. Why? Because I have to do something that's extraordinary. When I was 24 years old, I started training with a company that I was so lucky to find who happened to move from Montreal into my city, Winnipeg, Manitoba. This company was called Primus. And they were doing extraordinary things that made, in some ways, no sense. But the fact that they were doing it with such a commitment and with such a veracity, I needed that. The actors work incredibly hard, physically and vocally, and lots of teaching, lots of training. The training with Primus was led by Richard Fowler, who was the director of the company, and it taught me how to devote myself 110% to something, and that was, I think, the greatest gift from Primus. Hard work is, for me, the only way. It was just this ethic in the family that we were all, as human beings, expected to work. My mom coming from Poland, my grandparents Polish farmers who were in the war, and they worked hard all the time. These people worked hard.
My life is used more by the earth than it is by me. I am so much greater than what I have called me.
There are skills that one should bring to their work as a performer.
Ladies and gentlemen!
Very important to be physically precise. It's really important to have a strong and agile and expressive voice.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming tonight. My name is Dr. John Watson. If you've read any of the stories that I've written on the great detective, Sherlock Holmes, then you know I'm going to be your narrator and your guide tonight.
Because pests, disease, weeds, all depend on predictability. Should I do it from that?
It'll be different on the ground anyway.
I should do it this way.
If we're in here.
All depend on predictability.
I love coming up with the ideas. I love this time of playing where you just play and you make stuff up and you make stuff up and you make stuff up. The training is a kind of pre-performance state. It's like drudging up, it's like stirring up, it's like going into the chaos. I have within me my training. It is my home wherever I go. Training is my home. The best way to explain training would be that it is a practice. The way that some people will do their yoga practice to start their day or to end their day, the way some people will meditate, the way some people will pray. Another aspect of training is to not forget. Because if you just keep training, dancing around, which I would really do, but I was taught not to. So you need to be able to commit to it, or else it just becomes, a continuous improv.
Hooray! Thanks, P, for all the... Hang on, what's my voice? Hooray! Thanks, P, for all the carbon and complex sugars!
North American Cultural Laboratory is a company that was formed in 1997 with Brad Krumholz. There were these influences that we had, influences that stressed and made important ensemble and collaboration, the theater that is made by the people who are in a company. It's outside of the traditional theater model, and it's a laboratory where a lot of things are being tested. There's time for experimentation.
Mama.
Whoa!
The Confessions of Punch and Judy was a performance that I made with Care Wells, who was a Primus colleague. It's about a couple whose relationship is on the brink of either disintegrating or coming back together.
What are you doing?
Driving you insane!
And we had a great time performing it all over.
Insane!
The experience of performance, it only happens once. The once-in-a-lifetime quality permeates the experience because there's that particular audience and there's those actors having that particular night.
We'll just sing this song and then go. Thank you for paying and also for staying for our sweet tale of love, blow by blow.
Another performance that meant a lot to me and was really an important moment in my career was 10 Brecht poems. Poetry by Bertolt Brecht, who is a German playwright from the 30s and 40s. I really was feeling this tension mounting with the Iraq War. I felt we were on this warpath. And I started reading it. I was on the subway and I was like, oh my good God, I have to read this aloud. And I was like, don't be crazy. You can't do that. So I said, well, just make a play, yo. And it was a performance that I collaborated with Lise Walker from Strike Anywhere Performance Ensemble on. And the piece was like a kind of vaudeville review, just the two women, two of us.
To fighting against all enemies of all mankind. Never forget.
That was like a major important performance because it was so of the time.
In the dark times, will there also be singing?
Yes, there will also be singing about the dark times.
And I think I've performed that play more than any other play. It's just as important for me to keep working as an actress as it is to host a retreat and to bring a theater company here to perform. Because for me, one can't exist without the other. The space has two buildings. It's the theater, which is where we are right now. It's a beautiful church that was renovated into a theater in the 80s, and then we did further renovations in 1999. And next door is an old Catskills boarding house. It's a residence for our theater company. It is also a residence for other companies who perform here. It was a great gift from Brad's family that we were able to get this place to be the home for this theater company. So it's a real home for artists, and as much as any of my art, I care for that house.
Well, who's allergic to flax? You're allergic to flax. Okay.
Every artist who's ever stayed at the house has signed the guest book. It's often, oh, and the food was so good. Just start like that and make it as thinly sliced as you can. So cooking became a really big part of my work and my life, and I decided pretty early on that I wanted to buy local food from local farmers. These are from my farm.
Oh, so you have a farm too?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yep. And a baby.
And a baby?
Yep, he's at his babysitter's today.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. My husband is a very good farmer, and we grow organic vegetables. These are the best onions. I mean, this is something I grew. Like, if you've ever grown something, it's like a little seed at the beginning, and then you watch it grow, and then you pull it out, and it has this, like, really, you have a relationship to it. Sharing of food, it's a beautiful ritual, and I think it's very connected to theater.
My name is Millicent Montgomery, and this is my farm.
The Little Farm Show is a play that is connecting a lot of my interests right now, which is farming.
It's a little farm show, plant the seeds and they grow.
and wanting to have a play that can go into a lot of different environments for children and families. I'm collaborating with Jane Wells, who's a writer in Toronto.
Not to mess up the lines, but that is what's sort of surprising.
It's too early in the tour to make a joke.
Yeah.
We're building a performance whose theme is why it's good to eat food that comes from a local farm, why it's good to eat food that's grown in your community.
Ha! Millicent, you have changed my tune about farming. Thank you.
We're symbiotic. We're symbiotic. We each got something on which the other depends. We're symbiotic. We're symbiotic. And that's the reason we're the best of friends.
When I first met Greg, and he's a farmer, and I would come to the farm where he was working at Grzinski Farm and see their work, I felt this sense of home. So now I have this whole other life that I'm absolutely passionate about.
I've been given a small section of the greenhouse to grow my flowers so I can have a first crop before the field flowers. Zinnia. And these are all branching sunflowers. This is a weed that loves this greenhouse. So I'll make bouquets with all of this stuff and sell them at market.
I think about flowers all the time, like someone who's in love. I'm in love with flowers right now.
There's going to be a lot of lupins ready next week. I started these last year, but they weren't really that big, so I didn't really harvest. It's really great because I saw my grandparents working in the field that we had at our house. I definitely feel a connection to my childhood, actually. I feel so content and grounded. Sitting in the ground, that's the word for it.
Sharon chore plete do, Sharon chore plete, ti luro jore dos, ti luro jore, como chego dares dos, como chego dares, ti luro jore dos, ti luro jore. Koime mere saka dos, koime mere saka, ti luro jore dos, ti luro jore, nemo chego daram dos, nemo chego daram, ti luro jore dos, ti luro jore. Senalore jore dos, senalore jore, ti luro jore dos, ti luro jore, fankana vartite dos, fankana vartite, ti luro jore dos.